Welcome everyone, and thanks for coming around. And we must remember this is a celebration for someone who lived life to the full and really enjoyed every minute of it. My fond memories of my old man was Southbroom. We spent a lot of time at Southbroom. You guys had your cottages at Leisure Bay. We had huge amounts of fun there. Ian, do you remember us driving his car, the automatic Audi and Frankfurter? Another one was on Mace, shooting the crabs on the rocks. We'd blow their feet off. My old man said, "What are you doing that for?" So he said, "No, the legs grow back on." He said, "Let me shoot your legs off and we'll see if they grow back on." Another one of my fond memories is playing golf with them at the Tom Brown Golf School at Country Club every Thursday afternoon, playing with all these bullets. And we were probably a bit normal country club members than the other guys. We were the real snobs, the divots who used to play behind us. We were the proper country club members. We'd just gone into the halfway house after 9 holes, had something to eat, came out, and divots were putting on the 18th green. So we thought, let's wait so we don't disturb them while they're putting. And they turned around and started moaning at us for slow play and told us to carry on to keep the field going. Mom had looked at them and said, "I think I'll choose to ignore that." This is from Wayne and his family. "Dear Grampy, we have really appreciated the opportunity to see each year while we were growing up in Australia. We enjoyed the many holidays we shared with you, you and Gran, both in Australia and in South Africa. We enjoyed showing you around our school and taking you to our sporting activities. We enjoyed showing you places like Noosa, Byron Bay, Yamba in Australia. We enjoyed the many barbecues and dinners we had together over the years. We have watched you weaken and struggle with your health over the last 10 years. But it's still a shock to us to know that you're gone, that we will not see you again. Love, Wayne, Diana, John, and Diane, John, and Daniel." Next up we'll have Hilton.
Hi everyone, and thank you for coming today. I'm sorry I'm not there in person, but also forever grateful that I was there as recently as February this year. A very big thank you to Garth, Sandy, Andrew and Sheila for all they've done for the family in recent times. Today I thought I would just touch on a couple of high points as seen through my eyes, and I guess a good place to start is to note that my dad was barely a teenager when he met my mum. I stand corrected, but think they met when my dad was 14, started dating when he was 16, got married when he was 22, and were married for 62 years. And I think that one sentence speaks spades about my dad's happy and fulfilling life lived to the fullest. It was in these early days that my parents would ride around on my dad's motorbike with my mum's dashant in her bag and not a helmet to be seen. And to this day, our children think their grandparents are the coolest, retro, Instagrammable grandparents. Along the strand of my parents' union, it would be remiss of me not to acknowledge and thank my mum for the Herculean effort in caring for my dad over an extended period of 3 years, but in reality, a whole lot longer. It was my parents' mutual wish for my dad to be cared for at home for as long as possible, and it was only the selfless and Herculean effort that enabled this to occur. A huge part of my parents' life together was their mutual love of travel, and they were very fortunate to travel the world over many years, as well as locally, with many a long school holidays enjoyed at Southbroom. This is particularly relevant to me, as I met Carol whilst travelling and landed up living in another country. Fortunately, my parents were able to visit us on many occasions in Australia, which enabled our children to get to know their grandfather. More recently, I've been able to share our travelling photos with my parents on a regular basis. My parents' love of wildlife and nature has been passed on to us and our children, and some of our fondest memories of my dad are of our time spent in Kruger. Not just the birding lessons, but also things like his puff adder impersonation during a game of charades, which we all still laugh about to this day, and I'm sure many others do too. One of my dad's characteristics that really resonated with my children was his sense of humour. And I stand corrected, but understand this was Jill's favourite characteristic of Howard too. Finally, I have a very funny interaction between Carol and Howard. One day, Carol was vacuuming in the living room where Howard was sitting, and at some point in the proceedings, Howard lifted his feet and told Carol she could now vacuum underneath his feet if she liked. It was only a nanosecond later that Howard found himself holding the vacuum cleaner, having been told to do it himself. We are all very appreciative of all my dad has done for each of us. And whilst it is always sad to say goodbye, when we have such a happy and fulfilling life lived to its fullest, it leaves us with many happy memories to reminisce over for many years to come. Thank you and enjoy your afternoon.
Another thing that comes to mind with my dad, I remember he must have been about 50, but he's always on the go, doing different things, new things. Anyway, he tells me he's bought a car from Italy, a Lancia Monte Carlo, and it's coming in a container. It arrived, still covered in grease to protect it from rust. They had to take all the grease off, polished up. Anyway, came home with this car. Well, it had 2 seats and the engine right behind your back, and the front was the boot where you put your stuff. But as Garth said, the golf clubs couldn't fit in the boot. They had to be in the seat next to it. But I remember flying around Durban in that car. We had such fun in it. I'm just going to read out what I said to Dad during the committal a week ago. Dad, we are devastated at your passing. You were such a huge part of our lives and shaped us into who we are today. We know you're looking over us with such pride. You always put your family first and gave us a wonderful life. You taught us the value of family and friends, and we had endless parties, braais, and family functions. Our Old Millway family home and Southgrim Cottage holds so many special memories. You broadened our horizons by taking us on so many holidays. Mauritius, Zimbabwe, Kruger Park, the Berg, Knysna, and Southgrim, to name a few. They bring back so many special memories and have instilled in all of us, as Hilton said, a great love of nature and wild animals. Thanks for providing us with all the opportunities to get a good education and better ourselves. With Dad, you could always go to university and study. You'd pay for 4 years, you failed a year, then you had to pay. You are a wonderful and loving husband to Mom, your soulmate. Dad, you are a perfect example of what can be achieved in life through hard work and dedication. You had your own successful business and played numerous sports in which you excelled. Thanks for being such a wonderful grandfather to Kelsey and Nicholas. You always showed such keen interest in all aspects of their lives. Dad, as we say goodbye, thanks for having such a great sense of humour and all the laughs we had as a family. Words cannot express how much we will miss you. Goodbye. Love, Andrew, Sheila, Kelsey and Nicholas.
Okay, hi everyone. I'm reading this on behalf of my father, Brett. Howard Slater was a big father figure in my early days growing up in Durban. As an only child to my mother Barbara, Howard's sister, I was sent to Old Millway for the school holidays to spend with my cousins Wayne, Garth, Hilton and Andrew. Those were carefree days, spent doing what only 5 young boys would do, which is to find ways to cause mischief and get into trouble on a daily basis. Normally led by one Garth Slater, with all of us willing accomplices. Poor Jill had to deal with this and eventually got to the point of continually saying, "Wait till your father gets home and he will deal with you." When Howard got home, there was no debate and we were simply lined up in the hallway and got a good orientation, mainly verbal and then some non-verbal for the more serious misdemeanors. But throughout those fun times, Howard was always fair, direct, and supportive. Together with Jill, they were a firm anchor in my life and a great foundation for our own journey as parent role models. In later life, as he retired and they moved to the complex, it was heartwarming to see them in their little garden, grandchildren running around, and we noticed that Howard was far more tolerant with their misdemeanors than he had been with us. Two fond memories in recent years. The family celebration for Howard and Jill's 50th wedding anniversary at Andrew and Sheila's house, when all the family were there, and it was a wonderful day with 3 generations. Howard down to grandchildren. All present. Jill put on her wedding dress and it fitted. I noticed Howard did not put on his wedding outfit, testimony to their strong marriage and deep family foundation created. Howard's 80th birthday at Garth and Sandy's house, with all grandchildren present, he made the point that he wanted everyone together while he was living, and the great news is that they were all there. It's wonderful to see Howard loving the interaction with all his and his own brothers, sisters and his in-laws, children and grandchildren. Howard's passing is sad, but tempered by his recent ill health, and we know he will now be at peace and not suffering. Huge condolences to Jill, the boys, their families, and all the extended families, but Howard leaves a wonderfully deep and rich legacy, and this will always be in our hearts and minds. Love to you all, Brett, Bronwyn, Reese, Aaron, and Vincent.
I'm just going to read out Peter and Mark. When Sandy contacted me earlier in the week to ask if we'd like to say something today, it was a daunting task, as the first thing that went through my head was where to start. Howard and Jill have both been a big part of our lives for so many years that I've picked out just a few memories which particularly stand out. Howard belonged to a number of clubs and associations over the years, but to me the one that he was the most proud to be part of was the I Married a Purnell Club. Although he used to love to commiserate with Mark at family get-togethers about how tough being married to a Purnell was, the pair of them never looked worse for wear as a result. Howard also always welcomed new members with great enthusiasm and took great delight in telling them how hard it was to be married to a Purnell. In the early years of our marriage, we spent many happy weekends with Howard and Jill down at their cottage in Southbrew. These weekends were always great fun, and there were quite a few twists where Howard would be tearing his hair out because one of the boys had done something that had made him really mad. The incident which resulted in Andrew getting a toilet cistern for Christmas is just one such example. Gemma, our first Yorkshire Terrier, used to join on these trips too. The one time I had tied her hair up to keep it off her face, Howard took one look at her and remarked that he thought she must have a headache. Gemma loved Howard and would always choose him when she wanted a lap to sit on. I always enjoyed cooking for Howard as he appreciated good food, and I would often try out new recipes when he and Jill were coming for dinner. It didn't matter what I made, even if I thought the recipe wasn't a success. Howard never disappointed, tucking in and going back for seconds. Kate and Justin always looked forward to seeing Howard when they were growing up. He knew how to tell a story and had a great sense of humour. He is certainly going to be missed by us all.
This is a message from Greg. Howard, Hun, Dad or Gramps. There are many different names to refer to the same man that we are all gathered here for today. Although there were many different names for Howard, they didn't ever change the way he treated people. He was a man who always treated every person he met with respect and made time for everyone who crossed his path, always giving people the benefit of doubt and giving them a chance. This was evidenced very clearly to me in the year 2013. I had recently acquired my learner's driver's license. It was now time to drive. Unfortunately, neither my dad nor my mom, or any close friend or family for that matter, were willing to actually get into a car with me and to try to teach me how to drive, as apparently they valued their lives. I was facing a very big conundrum in my journey to getting my drivers. This was until one Sunday evening when Gran and Gramps were over for dinner. Gramps quietly called me outside. I knew something was up, as this was the first time he had done anything quietly in my entire life. So, as a good grandson, I listened to my grandfather and followed him as we walked outside. He told me he was going to give me a driving lesson. I could not believe what I just heard. This man was willing to get into a car with me when no one else was, and was willing to take a gamble with his life. During the lesson, he was calm and clear on what I should do. If I do remember correctly, he only panicked once when I almost wrote off his car. I guess to this day, I still have Gramps to thank for helping me to get into that seat and making me the driver I am today.
You should drive.
Although a very you see what you get type of guy, the one thing I will never understand is that when he would come over for family bride, he would just ask for half a beer. Now that would be fine, and some would even say responsible. That would be if he had just had 1 or 2 throughout the night. But after I had fetched him 8 or 10 half beers during the course of the evening, it made me start to wonder if it might not have been more sensible to rather have had a full beer. These are just a few of my many great memories I have of Gramps. From coming to every single one of Chris and my sporting games, that when we were growing up, to Monday homework, tutoring sessions at Everglades with Kelsey in later years, and when it started getting time to go to the pub for the pensioners special later on. When I'm back, I'll be definitely doing that first thing with my gran. We have so many memories with you that we will cherish forever. They say in life you're judged by the legacy you leave behind you, and if that is the case, you definitely lived a life well lived. You have left behind a family that will always be grateful for the fondness you created for all of us. Foundation created for all of us. Sorry, Greg. And the principles instilled in us, and we will continue to try and make you proud for as long as we live. Thank you for the amazing memories, lessons, and laughs. I will definitely be having at least 1 half beer today for you. Until we meet again, Gramps.
How's it, everyone? Sorry, it's on my phone. I didn't get time to print it. But hi, everyone. Thanks so much for coming today to celebrate the great life that my grandpa lived. It really emphasizes the person he was and how much everyone loved him. I'm so grateful to be here today and be with everyone, especially considering I nearly missed my flight this morning. I'd like to begin by thanking my dad, Andrew, Wayne, and Hilton for being so good to Granny and Grandpa. You guys are always there for them, and have been so great to your parents, and I'm so sorry about Gramps' passing away. I know Gramps is very proud of the men you guys have become. I find it so hard to believe that Gramps is not around anymore. It has been such a hard 2 weeks full of tears, but Gramps did such a great life, and I believe that we should look back and smile and appreciate all the great times we had with him, with an even greater person. I phoned my granny the other day, where we spoke about our many great memories of Grandpa, where we smiled and laughed, which I'd love to share with you today. One of my earliest memories of my grandpa is when my parents went away to Prague, and Granny and Gramps were taking care of me. And then when my parents were driving out, I watched them leave through Vicar's Place, and I started crying because they were going, and I was very young and didn't really understand. And then my grandpa looked at me and he shouted at me, "Christopher, stop crying, get over it." As I remember, and from that point in time, I realized it was best not to mess with this guy. And that week consisted of me having to watch Roland Garros the whole week, as I didn't want to put a toe out of line. And to this day, I still have nightmares thinking of Roland Garros. A passion me and Gramps both shared was the passion for food. Christmas Day was always our big day of the year, and me and Gramps used to get seriously stuck in. Gramps had a passion for ice cream specifically, and kept all the ice cream companies in business during the winter. I found it very funny when I found out that this ice cream lover with the belly to show was apparently quite the stud back in the day. He used to cruise around Durban in a sports car. My favorite memories of Gramps will always be in the bush, but more specifically Kruger. I always loved going to Kruger with Granny and Gramps, where we always had such a great time and great sightings. They were always made my best days. I want to thank Gramps for being a part of something which has become one of my greatest passions. I always loved hearing your bush stories and wish I could hear it one more time. Granny, I'm so sorry Grandpa is gone, and it hurts and it keeps on hurting, and sadly it's taking a while to feel better about it. I don't think it gets said enough, but thank you. Thank you for always taking care of Grandpa. You did so much for him, and I know how grateful he was to have you. Gramps and all of us are so lucky to have such a special person in our lives. We also love you so much, and I consider myself so grateful to have been brought up in a family with such solid roots. You and Gramps had such a beautiful love story, to be married as long as you were, and I dreamed to find a connection with someone as you did with Grandpa. Granny, I hope you get to do all the things which you have not been able to do recently. I hope you get to take walks in the promenade and embarrass all the other grannies on the tennis courts, because you know what, my granny is the best. Gramps, I still cannot believe you are not here, and I'm heartbroken. You always have a place in my heart, and I'll forever cherish our memories. The first question all of my friends asked after Grandpa passed away was, were you close? And I proudly answered that question, yes. I'm so grateful for the special relationship we had, which many people didn't get to experience with their grandpas. Thank you for everything, Grandpa. I'll make sure I make you proud in everything I do.
Okay, that's it, guys. And how's it to everyone in Australia, UK, and America? Now we'll have a few beers and champagne, eh?
We call it is white wine. I think it's very white wine. You want champagne. So much more your favourite city. It's where you're more free. My son has done in Somerset Wales. And they got the top of it. That's it.
What is it? We have
Yeah.